Off and running on a Thursday evening here on VSiN PrimeTime alongside Jonathan Von Tobel. I am Tim Murray. College basketball.
Maybe I'll move it.
JVT has got the
big day, man.
UNLV San Diego State game going on right now. I have San Diego State minus 2.5 and in a couple money line parlays. And promptly, UNLV up 4-0. So we will keep our eyes on that. Caleb Boone, the best player, at least statistically speaking, for UNLV, is dressed, did not start. So we will see with that ankle injury if he gives it a go. But this game got off to a late start, JVT, because the 1 seed in the Mountain West tournament, the lone game that of the 4 today, we anticipated, this won't be competitive.
Right.
12-point spread. They needed overtime to beat Fresno State. And may I just say, if you took the 12 with Fresno State, might want to go take a walk. Just
we got to push.
Cool off a little bit. My goodness, to have Fresno State plus 12. Now, it did close 12.5, and maybe you got 12.5, but
you were sharp. It did.
82-70, the final score there as Utah State. Actually, no, it was a little higher scored than that. But regardless, that was one of the many results we have seen already. 87-75. By the way, San Diego State, a solid 0 for 6 from the field out of the gates here against UNLV. I went back and looked it up, JVT. The last time San Diego State lost 3 consecutive Mountain West games, you had to go back to January of 2018. So it's been 6 years. They enter today with back-to-back losses. They lost at UNLV just a little over a week ago. Then they followed that up by a home loss on senior night. Their first snapping, I believe, a 20-game winning streak, and they lost to Boise State. And you had said all week, you wrote it up for the website, this San Diego State team a bit overvalued in the futures book, and we will see how this game turns out. JVT took the points with UNLV, and I am rolling with San Diego State. Money line a little on the 2.5 as well.
Yeah, look, it's obviously very early, and Caleb Boone is checking in right now, so we'll see what exactly he has to offer for the Rebels. But this is kind of like the thing. You mentioned it, the slow starts. It's partly because your backcourt just isn't good offensively. You are very, very reliant on Jaden Ledee to generate a lot of your offense, and he's a 20-point-per-game scorer. You don't really have much else outside of that. So you're going to have to get a lot more out of your guards here if that's going to be the case, as Ledee scores right now to make it 4-2. But I wouldn't expect that this is going to be a high-flying affair. This is going to be pretty grindy, as we saw in the last matchup between these two.
So far today, in some of the smaller conference tournaments, we've seen a couple of 1 seeds bow out. Richmond in the Atlantic 10, they have been eliminated. St. Joe's, that should have been telling to me when you look at the point spread in that one. You know I like the old stinky lines. How about the fact that St. Joe's, the 1 seed in the Atlantic 10, was only laying 2.5 on a neutral tonight against, Richmond was only laying 2.5 on a neutral against St. Joe's. St. Joe's ends up getting that victory 66-61. And then the moment that was that you had been lamenting, Kent State, they got their JVT revenge because you were talking all the smack on the Golden Flashes, and they go out and beat the 1 seed in Toledo. So 9 1 seeds in conference tournaments have already been bounced. Utah State able to avoid being the 10th.
Yeah, the MAC tournament has been kind of a bad place for Toledo to be. This has been a team that has been the 1 seed pretty frequently in the MAC and has not gotten anything done in the MAC tournament. So, look, it's like variance because I think it's 4 years now that they've gotten this top seed or somewhere in the top 2 and haven't made it to, at the very least, a title game. But it looks like for a day, analytics win. They always do. The metrics and the numbers painted a picture of a Kent State team that was going to be a lot better than what the returns were on paper. And here they are, at the very least, in the MAC semifinals. So was it more about Toledo or Kent State? We will find out in the next round.
UConn, they had a scare until they didn't.
It wasn't a scare. You texted us eyeball emojis
I was kidding.
7 minutes in.
I was kidding. UConn trailed, I believe, 10-0 out of the chute to Xavier. And then they won 87-60. They outscored Xavier 53-27 in the second half. And what probably was a pretty secure bet was the -9 second half play on UConn as they absolutely hammered Xavier in that second half. The interesting thing, JVT, because I went on with Gil earlier today on a numbers game, and I thought Seton Hall was the right side. They weren't. Seton Hall fell hard to St. John's, 91-72. That was the infamous moment when Rick Pitino called out St. John's and said they have no lateral quickness. This team stinks. I'm having the worst time of my life. This is, yada, yada, yada. They haven't lost since then. And they will be playing tomorrow night at the Garden against UConn. I will imagine there will be plenty of UConn faithful inside the Garden tomorrow evening as UConn and St. John's lace them up. But two impressive performances earlier today in the Garden as St. John's wins by 19 as a 3.5-point favorite, and UConn, despite being only up 1 at the break, won by 27.
So what's fascinating about that is, obviously, it's the storyline of St. John's and the fact that they are winning right since that moment, and they've seemingly turned these things around. And this is a team that right before they went on this losing streak, many people in the community thought that they were going to be a hot-ticket item to make it to a Final Four. So it looks like that maybe still could come to fruition. The other interesting part is Lunardi's got Seton Hall in the last 4 buys, and you got St. John's in the last 4 in. So you'd assume a win like this solidifies St. John's status as a tournament team. But on the flip side, got a couple of teams on the first 4 out that you're wondering, all right, can you make a push and maybe push a team like Seton Hall out of this thing after a loss like this? So that's the other interesting dynamic about this. It's the big picture for St. John's, but it's also teams like, we've mentioned them. We have them to make it to the Final Four. New Mexico, that's currently on the first 4 out. That's a good loss for a team like New Mexico if they can get one more win here and solidify their spot in the tournament. So that's the other fascinating part about this. And I'd even throw in, by the way, they're not playing anymore because they got eliminated in their championship. Indiana State. Indiana State's a team that is hoping to get in as an at-large, and to have another team in front of them fall would be very big for them.
So I mentioned this also to Gil today, which was he wrapped it up saying, who gets screwed? I immediately said Indiana State. I hope they don't. And I think there's a couple things that could work in their favor. And I'll be honest, if you're a nerd and you're wondering, hey, can Indiana State get in, a team whose metrics are pretty good, but they got some really bad losses, 2 quad 4 losses to their ledger, JVT, what would be beneficial to Indiana State would be for Dayton to win the Atlantic 10 and for Florida Atlantic to win the AAC. Because Dayton is in, and Florida Atlantic is in, JVT, but bid stealers could be coming in those particular conferences, and I think it's beneficial for Indiana State that Richmond did get bounced to 1 seed in that tournament. We'll see how the AAC plays out. By the way, Memphis got knocked off today by Wichita State, so a certainly very disappointing end to the season for Memphis, who at one point in time got as high as, I believe, top 10 in the country. So, all these results are coming fast and furious. We've got a bunch of games still to come this evening, JVT. But another team that we talked about it with Patrick Stevens a couple weeks ago about their prospects of making the NCAA tournament. Wake Forest, enjoy the NIT. They're done. They lose today, and they got thumped pretty good by Pittsburgh. And I don't think Wake Forest, after losing to Notre Dame on the road in the regular season, losing at home to Georgia Tech, I think Wake Forest will be on the outside looking in of the NCAA tournament as they are bounced today as a 2-point favorite. They lost by 12 to Pitt.
Yeah, it's interesting, and I think obviously the picture changes with the results. You and I were talking about this, that there were a couple of spots that had Wake Forest as, hey, win your first game and you're kind of in that territory. And yet today, for guys like Lunardi, pops in essentially in the category that he labels out without this win. So, you don't get that win. It's the result that you get. And it seems, like you mentioned, it sucked because there was a moment where after you beat Duke at home, you thought, like, that was the win you needed. But you can't slip up down the stretch the way that Wake Forest did.
Can't lose at home to Georgia Tech. Can't lose on the road to
North Carolina
Dame.
Did. They're fine.
Yeah.
No, they lost on the road.
Yeah, they lost on the road, which is a little bit better.
A little bit.
A bunch of games to come here this evening. A bunch of top teams will be in action, and some tasty NBA games, JVT. 7:30 tonight. Phoenix at Boston. The Celtics right now mostly across the market laying 6. So it's not all college basketball right now. The Circus Sportsbook is filled up. It's a pretty good crowd getting ready, but this is a good one tonight. 7:30 Eastern in Boston. C's are laying 6.
Yeah, and so what's pretty fascinating about this is let's go back about a week. The Boston Celtics were in Phoenix taking on the Suns. And in that matchup, the Celtics, were 5.5-point favorites on the road in Phoenix. Now, Kristaps Porzingis did not play in that game. Neither did Devin Booker. So Devin Booker's back. Kristaps Porzingis is not going to play, and Jaylen Brown's questionable. But let's say Jaylen Brown plays. This is quite the swing from where we were, right? You were laying 5.5 on the road. Now you're just laying 6 here at home. So if Jaylen Brown plays, if you get any wind of this, I think the Celtics would be the play. I don't like where the Suns team is at, and I just don't like where they're at, physically in terms of matching up with Boston and these big wings that they have if Jaylen Brown's going to give this thing a go. So very much interested in Boston, just monitoring the injury report here, but very much think that I'd rather roll with the C's tonight at home over the Phoenix Suns, who are not in the best form right now.
Just down the road from where we sit, San Diego State leads UNLV 8-5. Still to come tonight, Duke in action. Providence and Creighton will square off. A lot of games to get to, and to help us break it down, our good friend Brad Evans will join us in just a little bit. Best bets for tonight coming up, bottom of the hour as well. We're up and running. It is VSiN PrimeTime, presented by DraftKings on VSiN, the sports betting network.
This is VSiN Primetime with Tim Murray and Jonathan Von Tobel on VSiN, the sports betting network.
It is the best time of year, folks. It is championship week, and what better way to get involved than check out a free VSiN Pro sub. Yep, go to vsin.com/champweek. You get a VSiN Pro subscription for free all the way through Sunday. You get access to our picks page, the full betting splits data from DraftKings, unlimited access to pro articles. Yep, every single one of our write-ups up on the website of vsin.com, and I will send you Matt Euman's personal home landline. How about that? Check it out now, vsin.com/champweek.
Is that true?
I don't know if he's got a landline. Humans is kind of like one of those guys that I feel like could have a landline.
I could see Humans having a landline.
But then he never picks it up because he gets mad because people keep calling him. So it's like, I don't know why you have it.
We've got a couple games going on. The brunt of the games will get back on our television screen starting at 7 o'clock Eastern, but we do have a game going on right now at Thomas & Mack Arena. San Diego State and UNLV. The Runnin' Rebels have a 11-10 lead at the under-12 media timeout. To help us break down tonight's card, maybe a little bracketology, a little bit of everything, we bring in our great friend on the Progressive Guest Line, the one and only Brad Evans, at Noisy Huevos on Twitter. Check out his website, thegamingjuice.com. Watch him on television, live on the line. A lot to get to, sir, but first and foremost, Bubble Watch. Did Wake Forest seal its fate today with that loss? Are they out? And is St. John's in with that win?
Yeah, Wake Forest, adios amigo. They're going to be headed the NIT. And St. John's, I had relatively firmly in already entering the day. Now they're very much on solid ground. In fact, I would say they're on concrete. That's how solid that ground is. I got it projected as a number 10 seed. Who would have thunk it? Van Tobel, just like about 3 weeks ago, this team was very bubblicious. But they have done enough with the overall resume to go dancing. They'll have their name called on Sunday.
All right, so I brought up this team. What about the team that they beat? Is Seton Hall standing on sand? Is it wood? What kind of floor are we talking about here for Seton Hall?
Yeah, it's sand, but it's not the quick variety. So, they're still upright. They're not getting sucked in, the plummeting to the bottom and the depths of the earth. I think Seton Hall right now, I got them projected. The very latest bracket big board updates on thegamingjuice.com. I'm overseeing this sucker literally every single second of the waking hour right now. So instant updates as games go final. And Seton Hall, I moved them down from a number 10 seed. I moved St. John's in their place, only appropriate, right? I moved the Hall down to the highest number 11, but out of the first four there in Dayton. Those rights right now belong to New Mexico, Virginia, Colorado, and the Providence Friars as my very last team. And get out of here, Villanova. You should have killed DePaul by 25.
Well, that brings us to New Mexico as Brad Evans joins us right now at Noisy Huevos on Twitter. They play tonight the finale of what has already turned out to be a pretty fun quarterfinals, as I think all of us expected. This conference is fantastic. I didn't think Fresno, and pour one out to Fresno plus 12 backers out there. That was brutal.
Got the push.
But New Mexico, Boise State tonight. These two teams have played twice this year. Boise State has gotten the best of the Lobos both times. But it's interesting to note just how the market has shifted a little bit. The first time these two teams played, it was at the Pit, so you got home court advantage. The number was 10.5. Now, Boise State won that game convincingly. They played in Boise. Boise closed 3.5-point favorite. Now it's around +1 in favor of the Broncos. Where are you in some late-night Mountain West action?
Yeah, I actually wrote about the game at juice.com just on the standard line by itself. I kind of like the Lobos here, guys. Team that's playing better defensively right now. Offensively, obviously, they can absolutely light up the scoreboard with that dynamic backcourt of Jamal Masburn Jr. along with Jalen House. And you look at the Broncos, they got a formidable front court. Obviously with Degenhardt, a guy that really gets after it on both ends of the floor, defensively on the glass or offensively generating those second chance opportunities. They have some really good outside shooters as well. They played well on the road for the most part, but New Mexico, I love betting on desperate teams, and it is certainly a desperate time for the younger Patino, as maybe he's got to channel what his dad did today in the Garden, but would do it out west in your guys' neck of the woods there. So I think they will not get season swept by Boise State. I think New Mexico tonight, I took a +1. You take them on the money line. It's about -105, depending upon where you shop. You want to play in the SGP market, maybe take the total down, slam that over. This should be a briskly paced up-tempo game because New Mexico, that is their style. Top 10 in the nation on the air to adjust it to tempo, but I think they get the win tonight.
All right, let's go to the Big Ten. Their second round's about to get started in about 10 minutes, Brad. First game, I know you got something here, Ohio State and Iowa.
Yeah, I'm on the Bucks, guys. Another team right now, very bubblicious. Really, both these teams. This is an elimination game in the NCAA tournament at-large conversation. Loser is firmly out in the NIT. Winner is still registering a pulse. But I like Ohio State and what they have done in the post-Chris Holtmann era. And congratulations to him. Bravo, get hired at DePaul. Kudos to you for the most craptastic job than any of the power conferences that are out there. But it's a gig nonetheless. You look at the Buckeyes, number 33 in Bart Torvik's measurement since February 1st. I would, by comparison, 10 spots lower. So they are playing a little bit higher level, and they've really ramped up defensively. They're at number 31 their last 10 games in the nation. Is Ohio State an effective field goal percentage defense? They're only giving up 45.9% inside the arc and 32.2% outside of it. A very good team in terms of packing the paint. A little bit suspect rebounding, but I have to really worry about that against Iowa. They don't generate a lot of second chance opportunities, and different from other Fran McCaffrey coach Iowa teams, they haven't shot the three particularly well. Only 19.5% of the Hawkeyes' points are coming from distance this year. So I know Sanford is a baller and a guy that can really fill up the cup. I love the cutting action of the Iowa Hawkeyes in general, but I think Ohio State really playing at a higher level overall. I will lay the 2, 2.5, 3, whatever it's up to right now. I grabbed it at 2 last night. I saw it a couple of books as 1.5. I think they're going to win by 5 or more tonight.
Yeah, Ohio State's sitting pretty comfortably at 2.5, so readily available if you want to roll that way with Brad at Noisy Huevos on Twitter. Let's stay at the Target Center in the Twin Cities. We'll go to the nightcap. Penn State coming off of a win last night over Michigan, taking on the Hoosiers. Looks like they opened the favorite, and it has now shifted towards a pick. Even some -1s out there in favor of Indiana, and you're looking that way as well with the candy stripe pants.
Oh, baby, the CLV is making my mouth water, guys. I'm not talking about Cleveland, folks. I'm not talking about Cleveland. I'm talking about closing line value, of course. I grabbed Indiana last night in the money line at +105. So it's trending in the right direction right now for me. And, a pseudo victory there. We'll see what happens if the ball is tipped up. And Indiana really has turned their season around here in the last couple of weeks. So a respectable number 71 standing in Bartovik's measurements over the last month and a half. You look at Penn State, even higher actually, number 51 in that category. I think the key to this game is Khalil Ware. What version of him we got to see? The 7-footer, he's a long drink of water, can absolutely dominate at times and be perplexing in other instances. Penn State just has the size. They're giving up over 52% inside the arc since February 1st, and that is a strong suit of Indiana, is scoring the rock in the interior because they can't shoot the three worth a damn. So I think Indiana is going to dominate in the post. I think ultimately they're going to best Penn State if they get out and defend along the arc, because the Nittany Lions can obviously make it rain from outside. If they check both those boxes, I think they're going to cruise to a victory. So I grab on the money line, and if you're getting -1, I would lay the very small chalk on the Hoosiers or the pick'em circumstance. I also side, of course, with IU.
All right, last 2 minutes with you. Let's tie some bracketology into something you got here. I know you got a couple things tied to Texas A&M. Why, and what's their prospects looking like for the tournament?
Again, desperate times call for desperate teams, hopefully to win, and that is a team that desperately needs a victory tonight. And I'm going to lay the chalk on TAMU against Ole Miss. I grabbed it last night at 4.5. I think it's up to 5.5 right now at DraftKings. I would still play that line, guys. I look at Texas A&M, a respectable number 37 at Bartovic over the last month and a half. A pretty good offensive team in some cases, but not of late. Number 318 EFG offense during that same stretch. Better defensively, but Mississippi, guys, the dregs of the keg, they are god-awful defensively. Since February 1st of their last 10 games, number 347 in the country at EFGD. They're giving up 55.5% from 2 and 38.7% from 3. They got turnover issues. Texas A&M better run the stinking score up, because they got to inflate their net ranking right now, try to lure maybe some of those at-large conversations in the committee room and right the wrongs of those 4 black eyes, those quadrant 3 losses they have right now on the resume.
All right, final one for me. Indiana State outside looking in. What do they need? I think it was a good result. Richmond losing. So what do they need?
Yeah, they need all the favorites essentially to win. They can't have a bid stealer, not one, because they're going to be on the outside looking in. So, in American, you really are pumping up
FAU.
Florida Atlantic the best you can. FAU, yeah, big time. That is a must-secure spot.
Brad, always appreciate it, sir. Enjoy your tequila tonight.
Must tequila, let's make some money. I'm cold.
We're live on YouTube for free next.
This is VSiN Primetime with Tim Murray and Jonathan Von Tobel on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Oh, I'm so excited for this. The birth of my 2 sons and betting the bracket, all on equal footing. That's right, Sunday, 7 p.m. Eastern. Come out with us, Tim Murray and myself. We're going to be betting the bracket, analyzing every single matchup, checking out opening lines, giving out bracket advice, and more. Sunday, 7 p.m. Eastern. And remember, through Selection Sunday and through March 17th, free VSiN Pro access, VSiN.com/Champ Week. But very much looking forward to betting the bracket on Sunday after the Selection Sunday show.
That is JVT. I'm Tim Murray. How in the world is San Diego State considered the 66th best offense in the country? They're terrible.
Yeah.
This is
do me a favor.
Are awful.
Click that little bubble that says conference only and tell me what offensive rating you get.
6th in the conference. Yeah.
It hasn't really been good for San Diego State.
Good
now,
God.
The thing is, and they're down by 4, which you're alluding to, 16-12
Yes.
with 6:39 left to go. The thing that works for them, though, is they're so good on defense that they will make this a game. And it still is a game because it's only 4. But that's the thing they got going for them. But it's nowhere near the same team last year. Last year, that team was skilled for a team of their ilk. Not so much this year. So can't wait to see. By the way, we should note, too, I think he's back out there, but Rob Whaley was getting worked on. Rob Whaley, of course, getting the start today over Caleb Boone because he's injured with a trainer at the last break. So he's back out there, but something to monitor there because that's another front court body that could be gone. As
we hit our best bets portion of the show, hello, YouTube. We're free every single day on YouTube, youtube.com/VSiN Live with our best bets. As we watch this game and UNLV continues to lead, I'm going to read a tweet from our good friend Adam Hill, who was there covering the game for the Las Vegas Review-Journal. He said, UNLV leading 16-12, but lead is probably not sustainable if the Rebels keep getting destroyed on the offensive board. Caleb Boone's absence is a massive problem so far. Carl Jones has given some energy in 3 minutes. That has to continue. As of last check, as it's now a 2-point game, the Aztecs had attempted 10 more shots than San Diego State. So my question is there a point where you think positive regression could come for the Aztecs where they get the lead and ultimately win this game from what you've seen? Or do the struggles just continue? Because this is a bad offense. They are a bad offense. And I think this is important moving forward. When the bracket comes out Sunday, and we'll be breaking it down as JVT Red coming back from the break, 7 p.m. Eastern here on VSiN.
Then the brackets.
They're going to be a 5 seed, San Diego State, maybe a 4.
They don't deserve it.
And that's where I think if they're playing a offensive team from a mid-major, that could be a tricky spot for San Diego State. Now, they're tough as hell, and they will body you as we're watching right now. But their offense, remember, they had Matt Bradley last year. They don't have Matt Bradley this year. Their offense is not good.
Right. Like, that's kind of the problem. Like, I'm a big Jaden Ledee guy. Like,
he's a beast.
He's awesome. The problem is, like, he's not as skilled as a Matt Bradley type. You know, he can't get hot from three. He's not going to be able to score in volume like that. You know, it's going to be slow. It's going to be methodical. It's going to be working out of the post or trying to drive by bigger guys to the basket. We saw him get big Carl Jones on him. He didn't really do much with them, but that's not really one that I think at the very least, and prove me wrong when they get to the Final Four again, that's not a player that I think you can really ride if you're a bad offense throughout the entirety of an NCAA tournament. So I would agree with you. Like, I think that if you run into certain teams, so what do you say? What would they be facing, like 12? So let's see. I mean, you're looking in the range of like what? Princeton, Grand Canyon, James Madison, South Florida. Like, those are some teams that I think could give them trouble, specifically Princeton. I wrote up the Ivy League conference, by the way. It's up on the website of VSiN.com. You know, Princeton wins the Ivy League like we expect. It's a pretty well-balanced team that can get they play slow and methodical too, but they can shoot pretty well. So I think that that's going to be a matchup that they wouldn't really love if they're going to finish as high as they are. And by the way, too, I'll bring up the same topic I brought up with Gonzaga when we talked about this the other day. Ken Pom has San Diego State as the 21st, 22nd ranked team in the country. Like you mentioned, they're probably going to get a 5-4 seed.
Yep.
I have this team, again, circled as one of the more overvalued teams in the country, and I am so ready to go and bet against them when this tournament starts, when they get in.
Yeah, 16-14. We'll keep an eye on this game, UNLV, San Diego State. If there's an in-game opportunity, we will certainly let you know. But let's get to the best bets for tonight, and we'll also get a little primetime primer in as well. But best bet number one for me, 2 late games. So I am sweating out San Diego State, have them on the money line and laid 2.5 early on in the process. But 2 late games for me, JVT. And this is going to be, we were just talking about a little bit of desperation spots. Villanova tonight, they were embarrassingly bad last night. They should have lost to DePaul. DePaul had the ball up 2 in the final minute of the game with an opportunity to beat Villanova. Villanova, though, gets a big-time 3, JVT, and ultimately Villanova escapes a inexplicable, embarrassing performance and loss to DePaul, and they ultimately get the win. Sometimes when you get those moments, I like to back that team the next game, and I think this Villanova team, they're a bit of a high-variance team. They shoot their free throws incredibly well, JVT. And then you look at Marquette, who they're playing tonight. Marquette, we know how good they can be at full strength, but they're not full strength. Tyler Kolek is expected to play if they advance in the Big East tournament. He's not playing tonight. He has been ruled out. So you saw the 4.5s all disappear. I still think it's playable at 4. I'm going to take the Wildcats here, catching 4 against Marquette. It's a bit of a hold-your-nose spot, but they're certainly better than Georgetown, so I'll say that. But Villanova catching 4 tonight against Marquette. I think you get a really good effort, much better performance tonight from Villanova. Late night there in the Garden. And once again, no Tyler Kolek. That is a big loss for the Golden Eagles, as we have seen. And Villanova catching 4 is one of my plays this evening.
Yep. All right, let's do it. So we're sweating out some Mountain West action. Let's go to one more then, huh? Let's do this thing. Give me Nevada, light it, -3 against Colorado State. I'm just not a big fan of what Colorado State's been bringing to the table lately. I get it. They've been winning quite a few games recently, but good performance against San Jose State. A little bit more touch and go with that final score would indicate. But I put the money where the mouth is. I've got Nevada to win this tournament. I think that they are playing, actually, I know that by some metrics, they are playing the best in the Mountain West at this point right now. Bartovik's got them as the highest rated Mountain West team over the last 10 games. I like their ability to defend, especially at the point of attack against Isaiah Stevens. I get that Colorado State's got the game under their belt, so maybe it's a little bit more favorable for them. But I think ultimately, given your ability here to defend, your size that you're going to have here down low, your depth at center, and the size in this backcourt that's going to be able to swallow up a smaller Colorado State team along the perimeter, I think that this is a matchup that could work well for you on a neutral. So, late it, Nevada against Colorado State. Come on, it's the best time of year. Let's do this.
Well, JVT, let's go to the nightcap at Thomas and Mack this evening. Look, we have no shot to have our friendship future come home if New Mexico doesn't win tonight. So we got to back the Lobos this evening.
They're going to emotionally hedge and bet Boise State.
Nope, not doing it. Going all in. Maybe BJ Raines will join us in studio top of the hour. We'll disagree as he covers Boise State, but I like New Mexico tonight. A desperate New Mexico maybe isn't the best thing because they're a bit helter-skelter, and if they're getting pressed, it could go terribly, terribly wrong, but it was one performance. I'm not going to put too much stock into a win over a terrible Air Force team, even though that Air Force team did beat New Mexico. New Mexico's out of the NCAA tournament. They don't win tonight. But if they win tonight, I think they're in.
Yep.
This is a massive swing game for New Mexico. If they win, it's going to be a quad 1 win. That will probably get them over the top. If they lose, from everything I've gathered, I think they are on the wrong side of the bubble, and that would be quite the fail for a second consecutive year for Little Rick's Pitino squad there. But I love the guard play of Jalen House, and Jamal Mashburn is back. So I'm going to roll with New Mexico here as a short dog. We'll take -105 on the money line, which is readily available if you want to take the +1, just to, I guess, in case this game lands one. Certainly wouldn't fault you there, but I'm going to take New Mexico. Terrible three-point shooting team. Boise State seems to be playing their best basketball right now, JVT. Their lone loss since Valentine's Day came to Nevada just a little while ago. They beat San Diego State in overtime at Viejas on Friday, but I think you get a really good effort from New Mexico. So my two best bets tonight, we're going to take the 4 with Villanova at the Garden, and we're going to take New Mexico on the money line -105.
All right, let's do it. I like it. Friendship. By the way, I have it on good authority that even though he played a couple of minutes, looks like Caleb Boone might be done. So we'll see if that's truly the case. Friendship on the line. I heard John Goulet told me that if New Mexico does not win this game and don't make it to the NCAA tournament, they're going to cancel the show and split us up.
Is that true?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, the friendship future dies.
The
first ever friendship future doesn't come home.
If this happens, and I don't know, maybe you tune in on Monday and something's different. Maybe that's, I don't know.
We'll get through the NBA slate as well. A handful of other big-name teams in action here tonight. You've got Creighton laying 8.5 against Providence. You've got Kansas State, good win last night, but now catching 8 against Iowa State.
Good thing for you, UNLV can't hit their free throws.
Maybe that's going to work out for me. Yeah. They also, San Diego State can't make their threes. They're 0 of 7. Oh, another miss for San Diego State. This offense is horrible.
This is VSiN Primetime with Tim Murray and Jonathan Von Tobel on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
New customers at DraftKings Sportsbook can bet $5 to get $150 instantly in bonus bets. All you got to do, sign up with the promo code VSiN, V-S-I-N. DraftKings Sportsbook, the crown is yours.
Keep it rolling here on VSiN Prime Time. We've got a couple games going on across the country. Full slate of games starting again at the top of the hour. Big Ten tournament, Ohio State early lead on Iowa, 10-4 for the Buckeyes, leading Iowa with 15 and change to go. Loyola Chicago, Ramblers will need to win the A-10 tournament in order to get into the NCAA tournament. They lead St. Bonaventure right now by 8. Mountain West tournament going on, closing minute of the opening half, and UNLV has taken their largest lead of the game. They now lead 27-17 over San Diego State. San Diego State, 8 for 31 from the field, 0 of 7 from 3. UNLV in that opening half, 4 of their 7 field goals made have been from long distance, and they have also gotten to the line 14 times. That's pretty impressive. UNLV getting to the line a lot compared to just 2 for San Diego State. So San Diego State has only gotten to the line twice. They're winning the rebounding margin, but not fully dominating there. They do have 9 offensive rebounds, but UNLV is the better team right now. There's no doubt. They lead 27-17. Caleb Boone, as you alluded to, likely done for the rest of the game, though, for the Rebels.
Yeah, and that was the free throw thing is a low-key part of what they've been trying to do a little bit better down the stretch, is getting to the free throw line a little bit more. And you saw, especially during this winning streak late down the stretch, but a free throw rate of just over 40%. And I think, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 out of their last 8 games. So forcing the action has been a big part of what UNLV's been trying to do here. So working early so far, but can't rely on the whistle. 10-point game that can be evaporated in 10 seconds.
Not 10 seconds.
A
couple technicals, I guess.
But you know what I'm saying. Especially if you remember, and you'll remember.
Yep, I was there.
Yep, you watched that game. UNLV had a big lead in that first matchup. San Diego State threw on a full court press. Rebels melted down, and it became a tight one. So that could happen again. Although I haven't watched as consistently, but we haven't really seen a full court press yet here from San Diego State.
No, we have not. And it is a 9-point game under a minute to go in that one. Couple games of note. Duke, I don't think has really any shot at a 1 seed, but probably going to be on the 2 line. They're laying 11 tonight against NC State, who won as a dog yesterday at the ACC tournament. The Dogs, so far in the ACC tournament, at least the past 2 days, JVT, have done pretty well. Florida State didn't cover earlier today, but Pitt was a slight dog, and they were able to win that one outright. Boston College, Virginia. Virginia, very bubblicious. They're laying 5.5 against Boston College. I would imagine BC probably a bit of a trendy dog in that one still to come. Mississippi's Texas A&M play tonight. That in Nashville. Texas A&M laying 5.5. Florida laying 8 against Georgia. Still to come, Pac-12-wise, Stanford, Wazoo. Wazoo laying 8 against the Cardinal, who, by the way, if you had Cal yesterday, oof, that was a rough one. And Utah and Colorado, late night. Colorado on the bubble as well, 4.5-point spread in that one.
Yeah, go back to the Duke game really quickly. I think we mentioned this yesterday and briefly, but if anybody is getting all randy for NC State and what they pulled off yesterday, especially as an underdog, remember that DJ Horn had been questionable, missed the first game for the ACC tournament, did end up coming back, played 20 minutes, scored 16 points for them, right around his average. So, usually I like to see these, all right, our team's undervalued, what's going on here? I think that was just the market a little slow in the come that DJ Horn wasn't going to end up playing. So, it looks like he's going to be out there again. Had a good performance yesterday, but, man, I like this Duke team quite a bit against every other team not named North Carolina. So, would think that they're going to be able to pull this thing out. 11 seems a little high on my end, though.
On a collision course for the ACC championship, we will see if it comes to fruition. By the way, 1.6 seconds to go. Looks like UNLV will go into the break up 8, barring a full court heave here. San Diego State promptly on their last possession missed another 3. And very terrible possession. UNLV, give them credit, though. They've played, I think, really good defense so far in this game. But UNLV, San Diego State, that is, 0 for 8 from long range. All right, our best bets tonight for college basketball for me, Villanova plus the 4 against Marquette. That game tipping off roughly 9:30 Eastern, probably a little later than that. And then the late night game at Thomas and Mack probably won't tip until around midnight Eastern. Boise State and New Mexico. I'm taking the Lobos. You can get a minus 105 on the money line, plus 1 depending on what you want to take in that one. 6 games on the NBA card. Here's by the way, and your best bet.
Yeah, Nevada. Nevada late tonight. Not late tonight. What's the start? 6. Late for those of you on the East Coast taking on Colorado State. Can I ask you about one game really quick in the college ranks before we get to the NBA? What do we make of Kansas State here in this spot against Iowa State? A team that turns the ball over on 21% of its offensive possessions, taking on an Iowa State team that will force quite a few turnovers on their own right. Leads the Big 12 in turnover rate defensively and is second in the country in defensive turnover rate. Seems like a bad matchup on paper, but Iowa State's offense, putting it lightly, has kind of stunk lately.
By the way, I don't know what just happened at the end of this half.
There you go.
I don't know if this three-pointer counts because Trammell is shaking his head. So we'll see if this counts. But maybe a 3 counted at the end of the half here. Let's watch it. Intercepted at the buzzer. Yeah, that counts. 27-22. So they hit a 3 there at the end of the half. Did you mention that the finale of the regular season, Kansas State also beat Iowa State 65-58? So these two teams.
A little bit of vengeance, maybe?
Yeah, I think Iowa State wins this game. Market would say it as well. It went from 6 to 8. So I think Iowa State, once again, if you want to throw them in a money line parlay, I would probably lay the 8. I think they win this game comfortably. All right, 6 games on the NBA slate. I know no best bet for you tonight, but considering Phoenix and Boston, run us through the 6-game slate of the NBA tonight. Philly at Milwaukee, and then late night you get Dallas, Oklahoma City. Pretty big one, but injury news in that one is Oklahoma City now to 11-point favorite.
Yeah, and if you look at this for the Dallas Mavericks, Luka Doncic is not going to play here today, so that is the reason why you see such a big number. It's hard for a bad defensive team without their best offensive player to, I even think, stay inside of a number like this. And for Oklahoma City, you would think maybe a little bit of a bad taste in their mouth after you go out at home the other day against the Indiana Pacers, lay an egg, and lose outright as about 6.5-point favorites. So pretty decent bounce back spot, if I can get through it, here for Oklahoma City Thunder. Also, we know that Jalen Williams is going to play. He missed that game against the Indiana Pacers, so situationally, looks like a circle here for the Oklahoma City Thunder, and injury-wise, it looks like it is a pretty good spot for the Oklahoma City Thunder, considering no Luka Doncic. Let's go to Houston and Washington. So I couldn't do it. I stared at this for a really long time, but I don't know if I could get there with your Wizards.
Not my Wizards.
Don't put that evil on you, huh? So look, you can't call them the Lizards.
Are they back to the Lizards? Or are they rolling right now?
I mean, I think by their standards, you can say that they are on a hot streak.
They earned the W back.
They had won 2 straight before they lost to the Memphis Grizzlies the other day. Look, this is without Alperen Şengün on the floor. The Houston Rockets stink on offense. They are not good. We saw them win against San Antonio the other day, but held to just 103 points in a really poor effort on offense. Now, Washington is no great shakes, don't get me wrong, but it's just asking a really bad offensive team to win by margin here. You're really expecting them to hold Washington down defensively. And so I do think that this is one potentially, Tim, where it's very correlated to this game going under. If you like Houston today, this is, again, up to 8.5. Total sitting around 227.5, 228, in fact, in some spots, with Houston up to 9. To me, those two things just don't really jive, right? Like, I don't trust Houston to win by margin. If you think that's going to happen, I think you're holding Washington to less than a point per possession and putting out a really good effort here. So ultimately, I think the number is too high. I'll put it this way. If you were to tell me, bet this game, it would be Washington 100% of the time. It's just, and I always give Doug Kazarian credit for this, do I want to watch this? Do I want to sweat this out? Do I want to sit there with a ticket on the Washington Wizards? The answer is no.
No,
right?
you don't.
The answer is absolutely not. I don't want to do that. So something that I would stay away from, but very much it's one of those where, I don't know if you get those, but it's one of those where I do believe this is the side, but I can't get there with the bad team. What do we say?
Don't expect bad teams to do good things.
There you go. And I can't do that today with Washington. The other note that we should talk about here in the early portion, of course, Kawhi Leonard, James Harden, questionable to play. Clippers on the road against the Chicago Bulls. Of course, we should note that the Clippers in this stretch do have a pretty big game coming up. They will be playing against the New Orleans Pelicans coming up here as part of this really tough stretch that they're on. That'll be tomorrow. So with this back injury and whatnot, would not expect that Kawhi is going to be out there. Harden's a different question. For all the crap that Harden gets, he's actually kind of an Iron Man. Like, he does play quite a bit, even though and he does deal with injury and plays through them. So I would expect that it's a soft questionable for James Harden, but a real one for Kawhi Leonard. And I don't think that you want to risk him because you've got a pretty big matchup with a team that's, frankly, nipping at your heels right now. The Pelicans have been playing pretty good basketball, although they lost yesterday to Cleveland. I think you're going to save Kawhi, if anything, for a matchup like that. So would expect that Kawhi ends up not playing. Haven't seen an update, but also have a check for about an hour. But that's, I think, the rundown here of the early slate so far.
Second half line, San Diego State -3.5, so that would make them a 1.5-point dog for the game. UNLV leads at the break 27-22. Mountain West still has 2 more games to come, including 2 best bets from the two of us. BJ Rains will help us break down those games in studio next.